What's the objective of team building activities? This is a question that you might be asking as you're watching this video and searching for this video, but it also is a question that participants of team building often ask. What is the point of this? What is the point of team building? So I'm Chad Littlefield. I used to teach a team building facilitation and training course at Penn State University, and now I get hired by some of the coolest organizations and universities to help build their teams, to help create cultures of connection. And so in this video, I'm going to unpack 3 common and core purposes of team building exercises, which is useful actually to put them into buckets so that you can be intentional. Now, the real purpose of a team building activity though is it depends. It depends on why are you actually doing any sort of team building in the first place. And so I'll also be able to offer a frame that will help you create and build more intentional and purposeful team building experiences for your group. Let's get into it. Here's the facilitator's answer to what is the objective of team building. It depends. Truly, well, that's actually that's the facilitator's answer to everything. Is it depends. It depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the which is probably the most accurate answer. And as somebody who's concrete, I like to know, like, all right, give me something here. I'm going to offer some 3 very common purposes or objectives in team building. And I put a little tiny miniature book together called The Pocket Guide to Facilitating Human Connections. And in it, the front third is kind of a little micro master course in how to create really engaging experiences, not just dialogue or not just conversation. And then the back 2/3 are 20 different exercises that you can do with groups in a variety of contexts. And they're lumped into these 3 categories. So the first category is connection activities. People, when they say the word team building, oftentimes mean, I really want my team to just connect. They've been working really hard. I want everybody to just relax, have a good time, connect with each other. I know it's so important to culture to just have people connect. That's what they mean maybe when they say team building. Now that I've got heaps of activities. There's a link in the description, wean.me/free, where we actually give away 20 plus exercises that help teams connect, build that culture of belonging and trust in a group. Now, the second category, and this is an interesting one because I have a lot of clients who come to me for this purpose of team building activity, but it's a little bit funky. So this next one is communication and cooperation. People want to do team building to improve the way that people communicate and cooperate within the organization. Now, the reason I say it's funky is typically what that means is the boss reaches out to me and sends an email through our website and says, hey, can you facilitate a team building session? There's some issues in my group. We want to get better communication and cooperation. Something like that. We want to collaborate better. And sometimes what that means is there's some problematic group dynamics that I don't want to deal with. So can you fix them for me? Which is depending on the group, right? It depends. Can I fix them for you? It depends. It really does depend on the severity of the issue. It depends on, is this been a 10-year ongoing problem or cultural dynamic? Or is this just something you've added 5 new team members and you want to get better at communicating? One of the reasons that team building is so effective at improving communication is that it's in entrepreneur language, it's like working on the business rather than in the business. So when you're working in the business, if you make pies, to use the pretty popular book, the E-Myth example, if you make pies and all you're doing is making pies, you can't focus on how to scale up your business or how to do things smarter, more efficiently, etc. It's the same thing in an organization. You're working in the business, and so you're not spending time thinking about how you communicate with each other and what the dynamics between collaboration and cooperation are. And so team building as an objective can be time set aside to work on the business, to work on yourselves as a team, to establish communication norms, to improve upon communication norms, to slash out bad communication norms, to increase or decrease the distance between collaboration and cooperation so that that work can happen and flow more quickly between each other. When you realize like, oh my gosh, like I'm sending this PDF to this person who's sending it to this person who's sending it to this person to sign, to then send back to this person, to this person, to this person, so that I have the signed document. It was like, wow, if we do team building really well, we can just like cut that nonsense out and speed up that process by about 4 days and 7 back and forths, right? So that might be an objective or a purpose to team building. The final one, and as I'm sharing these three, they kind of increase in depth, right? Connection activities, easy to do. Ask some questions, create connection before content. My channel's filled with ways and methods that you can meaningfully build that cultural connection, small bites at a time. This last one, building trust, is a little bit harder. And take this for example. If I said to you right now, leave your computer screen and go build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers, what would you do? How would you do it? What would the process look like? And yet in an organization, we're kind of forced to do that. But typically what happens is onboarding happens. Somebody comes in, they're like, hey, welcome, blah, 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 meet these people, down to work. Make those pies, make those pies. And maybe if you're in a great organization or a place that's on the great places to work list, maybe trust is really built into the process and people are really deliberate about the questions that kick off meetings and the way that cultural values are framed, and that builds trust. They're deliberate about transparency so that you don't feel like you're like treading through the, like trying to figure everything out. Like you can just, what people say is what they mean and what's written is what is meant. And there's that level of transparency, and that increases the level of trust. And so an objective for you might be increasing trust. Unfortunately, more often than not in the field of team building, we do team building to mend broken trust, and unfortunately it exacerbates it. It makes it worse, right? Going and like building some object together, or going and building a bike, or going bowling together, or doing an exercise over Zoom to really connect with somebody who you have a massive broken trust with is probably not going to solve that issue. For me, mending broken trust shouldn't be an objective necessarily for team building. That should be an objective for a difficult conversation. And that's a whole other category. There's another book all about that in terms of how do you ask powerful questions and create conversations that matter, not how do you like build this experiential, fun team development vibe. Because if you're trying to do that and somebody's trust is broken, like you can't just fix trust with an activity, right? Trust is something that runs very deep, and especially if you're somebody who's had your trust broken in life, in personal context, it's harder for you perhaps to build trust professionally. And so when it's broken professionally, it's that much harder to earn back, right? Trust is built incrementally, not all at once, and that's really important to know. So the metaphor I like to use is if I wanted to lose 10 pounds, which I wouldn't hate, I am not gonna go to the gym tomorrow for 12 hours. I'm going to maybe go on a walk in the morning for 20 minutes and maybe go on a run in the evening or a swim or right? Small incremental bits every day or almost every day. That's what builds health. The same is true for what builds trust. Little bite sizes of connection and communication and cooperation work ultimately build that trust. And so I encourage you to think about team building in 15-minute increments rather than 500-minute, like all-day team building events. If you want to do an all-day team building thing, cool, totally fine. Like go out as a team, celebrate, connect with each other. There's something really valuable about having that unstructured time to build your team also. But don't make that the once-a-year thing that you do, and then the rest of the year you just make pies, keep making those pies. If that reference doesn't make sense to you, you should rewind and check out the other 3 pie references made in the video. If you liked this, you will like this box. There is, this box weighs weight and has things in it that cost money, but there's a free digital version in the link below. So if you want to access on this, there's a whole bunch of tools to amplify connection, belonging, and trust in your group. There are activities, there are ways to do it from a difficult conversation perspective, but also from an activity and fun connecting perspective as well. This box is jam-packed with lots of value. If you want the actual box in your hands because you're a team building nerd or this is something you're tasked with at work, you can check the links in the description to pick up this box as well and get it shipped to your house, apartment, car, or drone. Have an awesome day.